I'm Carmen Fernholz. My wife Sally and I farm about 350 to 400 organic acres near Madison, Minnesota, and we're currently moving all of that management of the crop acres over to a young farming couple, Luke and Allie Peterson, who I just in 2020 turned over the renting of the acreage to them, but I'm still keeping some of the records, even myself, on FINPACK.
How long have you been using FINPACK for?
So my history with FINPACK goes back to some of the first days that it came out. In fact, I think if I look at my records, even my computerized records, I think I've got 20 years of FINPACK records on my computer right now. And before that, it was really farm business management with the Minnesota account book. And that merged right into the FINPACK program. So that's the value of FINPACK is probably why I'm still using it even today, because of all the things that it can tell me.
Yeah, what are some of the things that you learn from it, or like things that it helps you track and make decisions based on?
You know, the things that I really learned from FINPACK really start with the basic question of how much does it cost you to produce this grain or that grain. And if you enter the right numbers, what I mean by the right numbers, if you enter the actual numbers that you are producing off the farm, it will give you hard numbers and you're not always going to like those numbers, but that is the number one value, to tell you exactly what it's costing you and where you're not doing so well and where you're really doing well. That's number one. And number two, it makes you become a better farmer because you do a better job of staying on top of the business of farming.
Right, yeah. That I've found that too with even just with organic certification records. It just makes you keep track of things in a way that you might not do unless you have that external pressure.
That's exactly right when you look at making you do the things that you have to do. Because if you're really honest as a farmer, between April 15th and November 15th, your desk sort of disappears because the paperwork gets piled on. And if you don't have a system to keep that current, you will be in trouble. The other piece that has really been important when we talk about this paperwork and financing is that because of FINPACK, I have been able to do some really sound tax management. And because I'm keeping track of the expenses, because I'm keeping track of the income, I'm able to really avoid a lot of unnecessary taxes. Not that I want to avoid paying taxes, but a lot of times you can be a smart businessman because at the end of the year, if you do see a need for a new piece of equipment, say, and you look at your income and your potential tax exposure, you can save a lot of tax and yet get that piece of equipment that you've always been wanting. So tax management, a big piece, a big value for FINPACK.
How does the software itself work?
Yeah, there are two versions of FINPACK. You can either work with a farm business management group and they will own the software and you feed all of your data into them, or you can own a personal copy, which I did right from the beginning. And the reason I liked it because then I was forced in a way to keep entering those numbers, but it also made me understand those numbers so much better. So that's the beauty of it. And what I really like how it breaks it down is your fixed costs, your variable costs. You can tell which crops are losers and which are winners. But at the same time, in an organic system, I use this example. I was never making a lot of dollars with alfalfa in my system. But looking at the system overall, looking at my lack of necessity for herbicides and all of that, having alfalfa in the system enhanced the system in non-monetary ways, but not being able to compare it, I wouldn't have seen that. But using the system, comparing, showing what these things do, there again, it's a great benefit. And like I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of it is information, 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 or if you want to call it data, data, data. And using that data, information is just going to make you a better operator. But it's only as good as the information that you put into it. And the information that FINPACK asks for is basic information that's going to benefit you over the years. One other point that I happen to think of, I told you I had about 20 years of history on my computer. That history is graphed throughout those 20 years. So I can see how my farming has changed, improved, not improved, whatever, over these 20 years. Again, data, information, that's there because you're keeping track of it.
Right, so you can take and look and see, this year I eliminated fall tillage, and compare that to the numbers and see, how did it affect it or not?
That's an interesting point when you mention eliminating fall tillage. And what I almost immediately noticed the following year is my lower fuel costs for farming. It showed up immediately because keeping track of it.